Alrighty, hello, welcome back to another video. Um, so last little video we focused on like the last little bit of conditional expressions, so like the elif, else, and if statements. But now we're gonna get into some more complex stuff. Obviously, as the tutorials go down or like go up, stuff is gonna get harder. So it's just gonna gradually get harder. So in this case, we're gonna be looking at loops. So the first one we're going to start with is the for loop. So with the for loop, it's used to iterate over elements in a sequence, such as like a tuple or a list, or like a string. Yeah, so once it executes it once on each line, like each new line. So in this case, let's do for I in word. Let's say word is equal to dog. So in this case, we're going to print I. So think of it like this. We have I, and the in statement, we're looking at each element in word in this case, which is equal to dog. So for I, element, in in dog, sorry. So the first one, we're going to be looking at D, run this, you're going to print DOG, each on separate lines. But yeah, this can be anything too. So if you want to like be like element, like LE, print LE, run that. It's going to do the exact same thing. So yeah, that's basically the for loop. The gist of it, at least. But you can also go through like a list. Let's just say we have a. Let's just say we have like a list of prime numbers, and then we want to go through it for I in primes. Print I. It's going to do the exact same thing on each on separate lines. So it's going to start 2, 3, 5, 7. So we have another little method here called range. So if you were to do in range of 5, what is this going to do? It's going to print starting at 0 up to 4, but not including 5. Now you can go from 0 to 5 or whatever. Either way, it's going to do the exact same thing. You can have a start and a finish. Just remember, this is kind of like the substring where it will include but not include up to the last element that you have. Yeah. So that's the for loop and then the range. So you could do for range in primes. What do you think this is going to do? If you do primes in here, what do you think this is going to do? It's going to throw an error. Now, if you were to choose, so this has to be a number in here. So if you were to choose the length of primes, so the length being 1, 2, 3, 4 in this case. So now this is going to be 4. It's going to print 0, 1, 2, 3, not including 4. Right? Yeah, that's basically the for loop. Yeah, we just talked about looping over a string. Let's just say you wanted to check the length of a string. Let's just say we have a string called hello world. And let's print we're going to have a variable called length is equal to 0. Just initialize it with that. For in range of hello world. So what do you think this is going to do? So if we count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's going to be 13. We know that, or we can just check with the length function. So we could do this, length plus equals 1. And then at the end of this for loop, print the length. Get rid of this. Sorry about that. Now we're going to get the length. Of course, we could just use the length function and check that, but this is an easy way to check the length. Remember the plus equals, it's going to increment 1 each time for element in the list. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Remember, the commas and spaces also count as elements in the string. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. But yeah. But another thing about for loops is that you can have nested for loops. So an example of when you could use this is I'm just gonna think of an example here. Let's just say we have num underscore list, which is equal to a list within a list. Let's have 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, whatever. So now we're gonna check. Oh, here's a good question actually. Could you use num list in this in range? What do you think this is going to evaluate out to? Same problem. I've used length now. Why is it saying 1? Because this is going to be 1 and 2. The length of this thing's going to be 2. Now, if you were to do the inner list, which is where a double for loop comes in. So if we were to print the length of, so let's just do it like this. Length of outer, length underscore outer is going to be equal to 0 at the beginning. Length underscore inner is going to be equal to 0. So we're going to check the length of the outer one first, so these ones, and then we're going to check the length of the inner ones. So let's just have length of the outer plus equals 1, and then another for loop in here. So each time it iterates through that, length of the outer is going to increment by 1. Now we're going to do I in, actually let's change it to J, because you don't want these being the same, because then you're going to mix it up, and it could mess up your answers there. But for J in range of the length of, so in this case, we'd be checking I. So each element in this case is going to be this one. This is going to be one element, and this is going to be another element. So in this case, we're going to be checking the length of I. So in this case, at 0, it's going to be this one. And then at 1, it's going to be this one. But yeah. What do you think I'm going to do next? So now we're going to increment the other pointer. I mean, the other variable. 1. And now if you were to check the length, print, let's just say length of outer, print length of inner. All right. Ooh. Of type int has no, you know why? Because this should not be of type length. So this one we're getting a length of 2. 1, 2. But this one we're getting a length of 1. Why is that? Because think of it as, if we're at 0, so I is equal to 0, this is going to hit 0. And then this is going to be 0 from here on out. So this, just imagine this running, this part right here running. If I can get it to highlight without highlighting everything. Remember this, imagine this part running. Once this runs, it has to wait for this one to do all of its iterations. So this one, in this case, is going to be 0 still. or 1, because we're incrementing it. And then for j in range, so range in this case of I, so the range of I in this case is going to be this, the length of inner plus equals 1. So since it's only going to execute once, it's only going to be 1. So it's just going to do this one right here. This is why we can't use it. If you were to print out I in this case, like print I. Sorry, let's get rid of this so you can see it. So we need 0 and 1. Why are you getting that? Because remember, it starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, in this case, it's going to be 0 and 1. So in this case, in order for this one to actually work, you wouldn't be using this. So if you thought about it, this was a trick question. If you thought about it, the range function we wouldn't necessarily use in this one. So what we'd use instead is just num underscore list. And then for j in I, now why is it going to do that? Because we're printing each I in this case. So now we know that I is equal to this. And now we can increment this. So get rid of this, do this, and now we should get our proper answer. So 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1 and then 2 for the outer loop there. But yeah, if you caught that mistake, good for you. I think I should do that more often instead of just talking to myself. But yeah, if you caught that mistake, good for you. Yeah. But yeah, that's basically the gist of the for loops. I want to get into more complicated stuff in the next video. But yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, thanks for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them below. If you like what you see, feel free to subscribe, like, and yeah, that's basically it. Alrighty, catch you in the next one.